The storm had teeth that night, sharp and endless. Biting through the black sky like a living thing, lightning tore across the clouds. Flashing blue against the rocky cliffs of planet Vareth 9, the wind screamed over the ridges carrying dust and metallic sparks from the mines far below. And through that chaos, a small repair ship fought for its life, engines whining, hull shaking, warning lights flashing red across every screen. Inside the cockpit, Ethan Cole, a human technician from the Galactic Frontier Service, gritted his teeth. He wasn't a soldier, not a hero, just a man with a toolkit and too much curiosity. But when the distress signal appeared on his scanner an hour ago, faint, ancient, impossible, he couldn't ignore it. Now he was paying the price. The storm sensors screamed as he forced the ship lower, trying to trace the signal through the magnetic noise. He muttered, "Just another job, Ethan. Fix the thing, log the report. Go home." But his hands trembled slightly, because deep down he knew this was no normal beacon. The coordinates pulled him toward a dead zone, an area marked off limits for decades. The maps showed nothing but empty rock and failed mining tunnels. But his scanner told another story, energy waves pulsing like a heartbeat. Steady and slow, he stared at the display and frowned. "This is not a machine signal," he whispered. Then lightning struck the ridge, shaking the ship hard enough to knock over a toolbox. Bolts rolled across the floor as he gripped the control stick, forcing the ship through the turbulence. The storm howled louder as if warning him to turn back. But humans were not good at listening to warnings, especially Ethan. He had fixed everything from plasma engines to alien reactors. But he had never seen readings like this. Curiosity pushed him forward stronger than fear. He dove through the last cloud barrier and saw the valley open below. The sight stole his breath. The ground was black glass. Melted stone stretched for miles in every direction. At the center lay a crater glowing faintly red. It looked like something had fallen from orbit. But not recently. The edges were smooth, almost carved. The distress signal was coming from there, deep inside. Ethan landed the ship on the ridge and stepped out, his boots crunching on glassy dust. The wind hit him like fire, hot and electric, making his hair rise with static. His helmet visor flickered with warnings about radiation and unknown particles. Still, he walked on. He followed the faint beeping of his wrist scanner down a cracked path, each step echoing in the vast emptiness. The closer he got, the more uneasy he felt. The air was thick, vibrating with something alive. He turned a corner and froze. There, half buried in molten stone, was something huge. Scales the color of midnight, wings torn, claws like blades of obsidian. It took his mind a moment to understand what he was seeing. A dragon. For a few seconds he thought it was a statue. But then it moved, just slightly. Its chest rose with a slow, painful breath. Ethan's heart skipped. He took a cautious step closer. The scanner blinked red, showing energy levels far beyond anything human. He whispered, "You can't be real." Then, from the creature's throat came a sound, a low rumble like thunder buried under the earth. It made the air shake and the rocks tremble around him. He stumbled backward, breathing fast. The dragon's eyes opened, glowing faintly gold through layers of dust and blood. And in that gaze, Ethan saw something that made his fear vanish. Pain, not rage. Chains of alien metal were wrapped tight around the dragon's neck and wings. Every link glowed with pulsing runes that burned into the flesh. Ethan knelt beside one of the chains, his technician's brain clicking into motion. He scanned the metal. The display read energy lock, origin unknown, estimated age 20,000 years. He swallowed hard. Someone or something had trapped this creature long before humans ever came to this system. He looked up at the dragon's face. Its breathing was ragged, each inhale sounding like wind over broken glass. Its lips moved slightly as if trying to form words. Then Ethan's wristcom buzzed, translating faint sounds into trembling speech. "Human, leave. Danger." The voice was deep, ancient, and weak. Ethan stepped closer, shaking his head. "I can't just leave you here," he said softly. He pulled out his toolkit, fingers already working at the alien locks. The dragon's eye blinked once, confused. "Why, help me?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Because you asked." The chains resisted at first, glowing brighter with every attempt each time he cut one. A shockwave ran through the ground. His ship's system screamed with overload warnings. But he didn't stop. When the final lock cracked open, the dragon let out a deep, trembling roar that echoed through the valley. The sound rolled like a wave of thunder, shaking mountains in the distance. Ethan fell back, covering his ears, eyes wide. The creature lifted its head, smoke curling from its nostrils for a heartbeat. It looked at him with burning gold eyes. Then it spoke again, stronger this time. "You are not like the others," Ethan frowned. "What others?" The dragon's wings twitched, breaking the last of the stone that held them. "Those who chained me," it growled, voice full of memory and fire. Suddenly, Ethan's scanner flared red again, multiple signals approaching fast, metallic armed. He looked at the radar and cursed. "Krell patrol drones," he muttered. The dragon lifted its head and hissed. "They come to finish what they started." Ethan's mind raced. His pulse hammering, the storm raged harder above them, thunder shaking the ground. He looked at the dragon and then at his ship. "Then we'd better not let them," he said. Grabbing his gear, the dragon's chest glowed faintly, lines of light spreading under its scales like rivers of fire. Ethan could feel the energy in the air. It wasn't just alive, it was waking up. The valley trembled as lightning struck the crater again and again. Ethan stood beside the wounded giant, soaked in rain and fear. The impossible had become real. And deep down, a part of him whispered a truth that made his heart race. This isn't the end of the story, this is the beginning. The storm had faded into a low growl across the mountains, leaving the air heavy and sharp with the smell of burned ozone. Ethan Cole stood beside the wounded dragon, his boots half buried in black dust, his hands shaking from exhaustion and shock. The creature's golden eyes followed his every move, calm but watchful, as though it were trying to understand the strange little human who had dared to break its chains. He could still feel the vibration of its last roar in his chest. It had sounded like the planet itself crying out. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the soft crackle of molten rock cooling and the faint hum from Ethan's wrist scanner. He glanced at the readings again, energy levels dropping fast, heart rate unstable, massive heat loss. "Your vitals are crashing," he muttered. "You need help or you'll die." The dragon blinked slowly, smoke curling from its nostrils. "I have waited long enough," it said in a voice that was low and broken. "If this is death, I will welcome it," Ethan frowned, tightening his gloves. "You don't look like something that gives up easily," he said. "Not after 20,000 years." The dragon tilted its head slightly, confused. "Why do you care?" it asked. Ethan sighed and looked at the melted ground. "Because I can't walk away from something alive that's suffering. That's not how humans work." He turned toward his ship, calling out commands through his wrist link. "Drone unit, medkit drop, emergency biofield active." A small repair drone floated out, carrying a glowing white case. Ethan opened it and started scanning the dragon's wounds again. The scales were cracked in places, the muscle tissue burned. But what surprised him most were the patterns under the skin, light flowing like circuitry. He connected a biopatch to the dragon's foreleg, the machine humming softly as it worked. The dragon growled, more from surprise than pain. Ethan held up a hand. "Easy there, big guy. I'm trying to stop you from bleeding out." The air shimmered again. His scanner detected motion above. Drones, small and fast, Krell-made, spreading out like hunters. They had found him. Ethan looked up and saw their lights cutting through the clouds, red and cold. "Damn," he whispered. The dragon followed his gaze, its golden eyes narrowing. "They come again," it rumbled, "the metal swarm." Ethan cursed under his breath. He had seen Krell drones before, machines built for capture, not mercy. He knelt beside the dragon, working faster. "If they find you alive, they'll take you apart to see what makes you tick," he said. "Go," the dragon replied. "You freed me, human. But you cannot fight them." Ethan looked at the sky, then back at the creature. "Yeah, you're right," he said quietly. "I can't fight them, but maybe we can." He ran back to his ship, activating the defense grid manually. Old tech half-fried from the storm, but it would have to do. He dragged power cables across the ground, connecting them to the dragon's chains. The creature watched in confusion. "What are you doing?" it asked. "Something stupid," Ethan said, smiling tiredly. "That's kind of what humans do best." The first drone fired, a beam of plasma slicing through the rain. Ethan ducked as it hit a rock near his head, spraying molten dust. He rolled behind a metal crate and shouted, "Now!" He flipped the power switch, the cables sparked, lightning dancing across the chains. The energy surged into the dragon's body. For a second, it screamed, a deep, furious sound that made Ethan's blood freeze. Then its wings unfolded, wide and burning. Each movement released waves of heat and light that shattered the drones in midair. The valley became a battlefield of storm and fire. Ethan shielded his eyes as the dragon rose higher. Shaking off the last of its restraints, it roared again, and the shockwave blew the rest of the drones out of the sky. When the noise faded, silence returned. Ethan lay flat on the ground, his ears ringing, his clothes scorched. When he opened his eyes, the dragon was staring down at him, massive and glowing with life. It looked both terrifying and beautiful. Like a living star, for the first time, Ethan felt something he had never felt before. Not fear, not awe, but respect. "You risked your life for me," the dragon said. Its voice now stronger, deeper. "Why?" Ethan laughed weakly, coughing. "I told you. I fix broken things," he said. "Didn't think ancient dragon would be on that list." The creature lowered its head closer to him, studying his face. Its golden eyes seemed to pierce through his thoughts. "You are strange," it said. "Your kind burn the stars. Yet you bring healing instead of fire," Ethan smirked. "Guess I'm a bit of an odd one." The rain had stopped, the storm drifting away into the distance. Ethan sat up and finally asked, "What's your name?" The dragon hesitated, then said, "Valrix." The sound of it rolled like thunder. Ethan repeated it quietly. "Valrix." The dragon tilted its head again, curious. "And you, human?" "Ethan Cole," he replied, offering a small grin. "Technician Class C. Nothing special," Valrix huffed softly, a sound that almost sounded like laughter. "To stand against the Krell and free me, that is not nothing." Ethan looked at the smoking wrecks of the drones scattered across the ground. "Yeah, well, I'm guessing more will come," he said. Valrix nodded slowly. "They will not stop until they find what they seek." "And what's that?" Ethan asked. The dragon's eyes glowed faintly. "The Heartfire," it said. "The life that burns beneath all worlds." Ethan frowned. "That sounds big." "It is," the dragon said quietly. "And now, because of you, they will know I still guard it." Ethan stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of those words. He hadn't just repaired a signal. He had changed something ancient and dangerous. He looked up at the dragon. "Then I guess I'm in it now," he said. "Whatever this is." Valrix spread its wings, the air vibrating with power. "Then hold tight, human," it said, lowering one wing for him to climb. The storm was only the beginning. As Ethan climbed onto the dragon's back, feeling the warmth of living flame beneath his hands, the sky began to glow with strange golden light. The world he knew was gone, and the adventure that would change the fate of two species had just begun. The sky over Vareth 9 was no longer silent. Ash drifted like snow through the air as Valrix, the ancient dragon, carried Ethan Cole across the burning valley. Wings of molten gold beat against the storm clouds, pushing them aside as if the planet itself was bowing to the creature's return. Ethan held tightly to the dragon's scales, every muscle tense, his eyes wide at the unreal sight before him. He had flown before, shuttles, freighters, even broken drones, but never like this. This wasn't flight powered by engines. This was life, raw and ancient, soaring through chaos. Below them, wreckage from Krell patrols littered the ground, glowing faintly in the dark. Smoke spiraled into the sky where plasma blasts had scarred the rocks. The dragon's chest glowed brighter with each breath, the energy that had been trapped for centuries now flowing freely. Ethan's scanner still flickered with unstable readings. Too much power, too much heat, but he didn't say a word. He just stared at the horizon, where a faint blue glow marked the edge of something massive. A mountain, no, a fortress half buried in clouds. Valrix's voice rumbled beneath him, deep and heavy. "You have courage, human," it said. "But courage alone will not save you," Ethan smirked, gripping one of the dragon's spines tighter. "Courage got me this far," he replied, "and you're still breathing." "So I'd say it worked," Valrix huffed, a puff of smoke curling from its nostrils. "You speak with the fire of your kind," it said, reckless and bright. Ethan grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment." The dragon angled its wings and began to descend toward the glowing mountain. As they neared the ground, Ethan realized the glow wasn't light from fire or lava. It was energy, flowing like rivers through channels carved in the stone. Symbols pulsed along the walls, massive and old. "Those markings," Ethan said, pointing. "They match the patterns on your scales." Valrix nodded slowly. "This was once our home," it said. "Before the Krell came, they landed at the base of the mountain, the ground trembling beneath the dragon's weight. Ethan climbed down carefully, feeling the heat radiate from the stone. The air was thick with the scent of iron and ozone. He looked up at the carvings, spirals, eyes, flames, and something that looked like stars falling from the sky. "What is this place?" he asked quietly. Valrix's golden eyes softened. "The sanctuary of the Heartfire," it said, "where dragons kept the first flame alive." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "The first flame?" Valrix looked toward the sky, as if remembering something distant. "When the universe was born, a spark of creation burned brighter than all others," it said. "It gave life to worlds, to stars, and to us." "The Krell call it a myth," Ethan muttered. "The Krell call anything they cannot control a myth," the dragon replied with quiet bitterness. Ethan approached one of the glowing runes, placing his hand near it. To his surprise, the light pulsed faster, reacting to his touch. Valrix tilted its head, eyes narrowing. "That should not be possible," it said. "Only those of our kind can awaken the Heartfire stones." Ethan frowned, pulling his hand back. "I'm just a technician," he said. "I fix things. I don't—" Before he could finish, the ground shook, and the runes along the wall flared to life. A wave of energy rippled through the mountain, lighting up ancient symbols that had been dark for millennia. Valrix stepped back, wings half open in alarm. "What did you do?" It roared. I don't know." Ethan shouted over the sound of crackling power. His scanner blinked red, displaying impossible readings, frequencies overlapping, power levels beyond anything known to human tech. A deep hum filled the air, echoing through the entire valley. Then a voice, not from Ethan, not from Valrix, but from the walls themselves. "The Keeper returns," it said, calm yet powerful. "The bond is remade." Ethan turned slowly toward the glowing chamber ahead. "What bond?" he whispered. Valrix's expression changed. Shock, confusion, maybe even fear. "The Heartfire has chosen," it said softly. "And it chose." Ethan felt something inside his chest, like warmth spreading outward, a gentle pulse syncing with his heartbeat. The same golden glow that marked the dragon's scales now flickered faintly beneath his skin. He stumbled back, breathing hard. "What's happening to me?" Valrix lowered its head, looking at him with something close to reverence. "The Heartfire recognizes your spirit," it said. "It sees what burns within you." Ethan laughed nervously. "Yeah, well, I wish it would stop seeing things. I'm not built for this magic stuff." But before he could speak again, a metallic screech echoed from above. Valrix growled, eyes blazing. "The Krell have found us," it said. "They hunt the flame." Ethan looked toward the cliffs and saw shapes moving. Dozens of drones, followed by sleek, black Krell ships descending through the clouds. He clenched his fists. "Then we stop them," he said. Valrix's wings flared wide, scales shimmering with light. "You are but one man," it said. "Yeah," Ethan replied. "But I'm not alone anymore," the dragon roared. A sound that split the storm, flames erupted from its mouth, forming a burning wall across the valley. Ethan ran to the nearest console near the stone gate, his hands moving fast. The ancient controls were alien, but something inside him knew how they worked. Each symbol he touched flared to life, responding as if it had been waiting for him. The mountain itself began to wake, doors of stone sliding open, revealing massive forges and engines carved into the rock. "By the stars," Ethan whispered. "This whole mountain is alive," Valrix smiled faintly. "It remembers its keeper." The Krell drones fired, energy beams cutting through the fire. Ethan slammed his hand onto the last control, and the mountain roared in answer. Streams of molten light shot into the sky, striking the enemy ships like lightning. The air shook, the storm turned golden, and the valley burned brighter than day. The Krell ships fell one by one, torn apart by pure energy. When the battle ended, silence returned once more. Ethan leaned against the console. Breathing hard, Valrix landed beside him, wings folding slowly. "The Heartfire flows again," it said quietly. "You have awakened it." Ethan looked at his glowing hands and said softly, "I didn't mean to." Valrix chuckled low and deep. "Great power is never found by those who mean to," it said. "It finds those who act when others run." Ethan looked out at the horizon where smoke and light mingled together. The storm was gone, but something far greater had begun. He didn't know it yet, but his act of kindness had just awakened forces that could change the fate of galaxies. And far above, in the shadow of space, the Krell Dominion had already noticed the rebirth of the Heartfire. The hunt had truly begun. The dawn on Vareth 9 was strange that day. The sky shimmered in layers of copper and gold, broken by slow-moving clouds that glowed faintly with leftover energy from the night before. Ethan Cole stood near the mouth of the ancient mountain, watching soft light spill across the valley. The air smelled of burnt metal and rain. For the first time since he had landed, the world seemed calm. Too calm. Behind him, Valrix rested, wings folded close. The glow along his scales dimmed to a slow pulse, even resting. The dragon's presence filled the cavern like living thunder. Ethan glanced at his wrist display, reading a dozen red warnings. Radiation high. Atmospheric static rising, reactor at 12%. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I fix things," he muttered. "But I'm starting to feel like the universe keeps breaking faster than I can keep up." Valrix's deep voice rumbled behind him. "You speak much, human," it said, "but your heart carries silence." Ethan turned with a faint smile. "That's what happens when you almost die twice in one night," Valrix huffed softly. Almost amused. "You risked everything for a creature you did not know," it said. "That choice binds your fate to ours now." Before Ethan could reply, a low sound rolled through the mountain like a deep horn, long and mournful. Valrix's golden eyes narrowed, his head rising sharply. "They come," he whispered. Ethan frowned. "Who comes?" "The pack," the dragon said simply. "Those who remain." A gust of wind rushed through the cave mouth, scattering dust and embers from the far shadows of the cavern. Massive shapes began to emerge one by one. Dragons stepped into the light, 5 of them, each different, each ancient. Their scales shimmered in colors Ethan had never seen before. Blue like frozen lightning, silver like the moon, crimson like a dying sun. They moved with slow grace, eyes glowing faintly as they surrounded Valrix and the small human beside him. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had seen machines larger than cities, but nothing like this. These weren't animals. They were living storms, each one radiating power that made the air hum. The largest of them stepped forward, a dragon of blackened steel and dark crimson fire. Its voice was rough like gravel grinding under pressure. "Valrix," it growled, "you return from death with a companion?" Valrix bowed his head slightly. "I do, Scarthun," he replied. "And he is not a companion. He is my savior." Scarthun's eyes flickered toward Ethan. "This small creature freed you." Ethan raised his hand slowly. "Hi," he said awkwardly. "Human technician, accidental dragon rescuer." The cavern filled with low rumbling sounds that Ethan couldn't tell were growls or laughter. Another dragon, smaller and silver-scaled, tilted its head. "It speaks boldly," she said, her voice like echoing bells, "and yet it smells of fear." Ethan forced a grin. "Yeah, that's probably me. Fear's kind of my default setting right now." Scarthun's claws scraped the stone as he stepped closer. "You trespass on sacred ground, human," he said, "and you bring the scent of Krell machines." Ethan felt heat building around him, pressure in the air before he could answer. Valrix moved between them, wings spreading slightly. "He comes not as a foe," Valrix said, his tone sharp. "He freed me from their chains. He fought beside me," the pack murmured in disbelief, the sound of shifting scales and flickering flame echoing through the cavern. Ethan looked around, realizing that if these dragons decided he was a threat, there was nothing he could do. He swallowed hard and said, "Look, I didn't mean to trespass. I was just following a distress signal, trying to fix something broken." The silver dragon stepped closer, studying him with curious eyes. "You fixed something far greater than you know, human," she said softly. "You broke the silence of ages," Scarthun growled, the cave trembling under his voice. "The silence was peace," he said. "Now the Krell will come again." Drawn by the flame you awakened, Ethan looked between them, confused and frustrated. "So what, you'd rather hide while they destroy everything?" Every dragon turned their gaze on him at once. The weight of their attention pressed on his chest like a physical force. But Ethan didn't back down. He stepped forward, meeting Scarthun's burning eyes. "Maybe I don't understand your ancient rules," he said. "But I do know this: if you stay hiding, the Krell will find you anyway. And they'll kill everything that breathes." The silver dragon glanced at Valrix, her voice low. "He speaks like the old ones did." Valrix nodded slowly. "There is fire in him," he said, "the kind that does not fade." For a long moment, Scarthun said nothing. Then finally he exhaled a plume of dark smoke, Very well, human, he said. You may live. For now. Ethan let out a quiet breath of relief. That's comforting, he muttered under his breath. Velrix turned to him. You stand among dragons now, he said. Your words have weight. Ethan looked around the massive chamber. Old carvings glowed faintly, ancient tools and relics half buried in dust. He realized this was more than a home. It was a temple. What is this place, really? He asked. Scarthon turned his gaze toward the ceiling, where cracks of golden light ran like veins through the rock. This was once the Heartfire's cradle, he said. Here, our kind forged bonds with the stars. Ethan's eyes widened. And now? Now, the dragon said bitterly. We are ghosts waiting for our end. Velrix lowered his head slightly. It does not have to be that way, he said. The Heartfire stirs again. I felt it through him, the pack murmured again. Confused and uneasy, the silver dragon looked at Ethan, eyes narrowing. Through him? Velrix nodded. The Heartfire answered his touch. It awakened for him. Scarthon roared, his wings flaring wide. Impossible. No mortal can bear its flame. Ethan flinched at the sound, but Velrix stood his ground. It is true, he said. I saw it with my own eyes. Scarthon's gaze burned hotter. If this is true, he said, then fate has mocked us all. Ethan stepped forward again, voice steady. Maybe fate didn't mock you, he said quietly. Maybe it gave you another chance. The dragon stared at him in silence. His words echoed off the walls, hanging there like a spark waiting to catch fire. For the first time, Scarthon looked uncertain. Finally, he spoke. Then prove your worth, human, he said. Show us that your flame is not just talk. Ethan nodded slowly. All right, he said. Tell me what needs fixing. The silver dragon's eyes glimmered faintly. The world, she said softly. Fix the world. As the dragon's eyes began to glow again, the ancient mountain rumbled. Something deep inside was waking once more. Ethan glanced at Velrix. The dragon smiled, a small, proud smile. Welcome to the pack, Ethan Cole, he said. Outside, the sky began to darken again, and far beyond the horizon, the Krell Dominion's ships were already gathering. Following the rising pulse of the Heartfire, the night settled heavy over Vareth 9. The mountain that housed the dragons pulsed faintly, veins of golden light glowing through the stone like the heartbeat of something ancient. Ethan Cole stood near the central forge chamber, staring at the enormous crystal pulsing at its core. The Heartfire, the very energy Velrix had spoken of. It wasn't just light, it was alive. The air vibrated softly, and every beat of that pulse seemed to echo inside Ethan's own chest. He rubbed the back of his neck, whispering to himself, Okay, Ethan. You fixed engines, reactors, even gravity loops, but not this. The glow reflected in his eyes as he stepped closer. His scanner beeped weakly, unable to classify what it was reading. Infinite energy. It said, organic source, non-quantifiable. Ethan chuckled dryly. Yeah, no kidding. Behind him, the sound of scales sliding over stone filled the air. Velrix and Scarthon entered the chamber, followed by the silver-scaled dragon whose name Ethan had learned, Serenia. Each dragon's eyes glowed faintly in the golden light. They didn't speak right away, just stood watching him. Finally, Serenia said softly, It reacts to him. Even now, Ethan turned toward them. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. Scarthon's voice rumbled low and cold. It is not bad, he said. It is impossible. Ethan folded his arms. I've been hearing that a lot lately, he said. Mind explaining before something else explodes? Velrix stepped forward, lowering his head until his glowing eyes met Ethan's. The Heartfire was never meant to choose a mortal, he said. It was forged by the first dragons to keep balance in the galaxy, to feed the stars, to heal dying worlds. Ethan frowned. Then why me? Serenia's voice echoed gently through the chamber. Because something changed, she said. Perhaps the Heartfire saw what we did not, humanity's spark, Scarthon growled. Pacing around the crystal. Humans burn too quickly, he said. Your kind builds empires of flame and ash, and then forgets the worlds you ruin. Ethan met his gaze, unflinching. Yeah, he said. We mess things up, but we also fix them. We learn, we rebuild, we care. His voice softened. I saw what the Krell did to you, to this place, and I couldn't walk away. Velrix's golden eyes glowed brighter. And that is why the Heartfire answered you, he said quietly. Because you acted without fear. Ethan turned back to the crystal, Watching the light pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat, he felt warmth spreading up his arms again, faint golden patterns tracing across his skin. It didn't hurt. It felt like standing in sunlight after years of cold. He heard a whisper in his mind, soft and ancient. Balance must return. He blinked, shaking his head. Did anyone else hear that? The dragons looked at each other, confused. Scarthun frowned deeply. The Heartfire. Spoke to you? Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, and it wasn't exactly whispering sweet nothings. Valrix turned to the others. His tone serious. Then it has begun, he said.
The Heartfire seeks restoration. Serenia lowered her head in thought.
If it truly awakens, the Krell will sense it, she said.
They have hunted this light for eons, Ethan frowned. Why?
What do they want with it? Scarthun's tail scraped the ground as he growled. The Krell believe they can control life itself through it, he said. They seek to bend creation, to end death. To rule time? Ethan exhaled slowly. Great, he muttered. So we're fighting a bunch of immortal control freaks with a god-level battery. Balrix let out a low chuckle that sounded like distant thunder. Your humor is strange, human, he said. But it eases the fear. Ethan smiled faintly. Fear keeps you careful, laughter keeps you human, he said. That's how we survive. The ground beneath them trembled softly. The light from the Heartfire flared for a moment, sending ripples of energy through the chamber. Velrix turned toward the ancient runes carved into the walls. They are waking, he said. The forges of creation, Ethan blinked. The what now? The forge that shapes stars, Serenia explained. Long ago, dragons used it to create suns and worlds. To seed life across the void, Ethan whistled softly. You guys really don't do anything small, do you? Scarthun's voice rumbled. We were gods once, or so mortals thought, but power breeds envy, and envy breeds war. The memory in his tone sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He saw it then. Fragments of the past glowing faintly in the walls, visions of dragons soaring through galaxies, bringing light to newborn stars. Then, the coming of the Krell, cold machines of bone and metal, stripping worlds bare. Turning skies black, he saw chains, fire, screams of creatures larger than mountains, and then silence when the vision ended. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. What I just saw, was that real? Valrix nodded slowly. The Krell destroyed our worlds. One by one, he said quietly, until only we remained hiding here. Guarding what was left of creation's flame, Ethan stared at the Heartfire, anger rising inside him. All that power, all that beauty, and they tried to erase it. He clenched his fists. Not again, he said. We're not letting them finish the job. The dragons looked at him, something shifting in their expressions. Respect, maybe even hope, Scarthun finally spoke, his tone less harsh than before. If you mean those words, human, then you must understand what that promise costs. Ethan met his gaze. I've got nothing left to lose, he said. But if I can help fix even one piece of what they broke, that's enough. Serenia stepped closer to the Heartfire, lowering her head. The ancient code must be restored, she said. The runes that bind the flame must be rewritten before it burns out of control. Ethan frowned. Rewritten? By who? Velrix looked at him. By the one it chose, he said. You. Ethan blinked. Wait, you're saying I have to rewrite Cosmic Dragon Code? Serenia's eyes softened. You are not rewriting it, she said. You are completing it. The light in the chamber grew brighter. The runes began to float around him, glowing symbols forming patterns in the air. He felt the same warmth rise again, deeper this time, touching something beyond words. The world seemed to fade away, replaced by light. He heard the Heartfire's voice again, gentle but powerful. Restore balance, keeper of sparks. And then he understood. Images flashing in his mind, blueprints of creation itself, threads of light that connected every living thing. The dragons, the stars, even the humans, they were all made from the same fire. When the light faded, Ethan was kneeling on the floor. Trembling, Valrix stepped closer, eyes wide. What did you see? Ethan looked up slowly, his voice quiet but steady. I saw everything, he said, and I know how to stop the Krell. The dragons fell silent. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Far beyond the mountain, in the cold void of space, the Krell Dominion's fleet turned toward Vareth 9, drawn by a light they hadn't seen in 10,000 years. The final war for the Heartfire had begun. The mountain no longer slept. Its heart, the heart fire, beat strong again, lighting the sky in waves of gold that rippled far into the upper atmosphere. The dragons stood watch over its light, their wings catching the glow like living embers in the night. And between them, at the center of it all, stood Ethan Cole, a lone human with hands that now shimmered faintly with the same fire that powered the stars. But peace never lasts, not when darkness hungers for light. From the heavens came a sound like thunder being torn apart. Ethan turned toward the horizon, his heart sinking as he saw the first streaks of red. Krell ships, descending like falling stars, hundreds of them, then thousands, filling the black sky with lines of burning metal. The ground trembled as their engines screamed through the clouds. The Krell had found them. Scarthun's roar shook the valley. They come to claim what they could never create, he said. Voice sharp as lightning, Valric spread his wings, the glow from his scales brightening like dawn. They will not find us helpless, he growled. Ethan stared upward, his throat dry. There were too many, entire fleets stretching across the sky, their dark hulls reflecting the heartfire's glow like a swarm of blades. His scanner buzzed uncontrollably. Over 4,000 active signatures, he muttered. This isn't a battle, it's extinction. The dragons moved, ancient instincts awakening. Flames rolled across their throats as energy gathered under their wings. Sparks of light filled the air, their power resonating with the heartfire deep within the mountain. But Ethan could see it, the fear behind their strength. Even dragons could die, and if they fell, the flame would fall with them. Valrix turned his golden eyes toward him. You must leave this place, he said. The flame will draw their wrath. Your kind is not built for this war. Ethan shook his head. Stepping closer. No chance, he said. If I leave, the heartfire dies, and so does everything you've been guarding. Scarthun growled. You cannot fight what we have fought for centuries. Ethan looked up at him, defiant. Maybe not, he said. But I can change the rules. He sprinted toward the ancient control pillar near the forge, his mind racing. The heartfire pulsed behind him like a sun trapped in stone, its rhythm syncing with his heartbeat. He placed his hand on the crystal panel and whispered, You chose me, then help me now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the light surged, flooding through him. His veins glowed gold, and for an instant, he saw everything, the mountain, the dragons, the ships above, connected by lines of energy like threads in a web, and he knew what he had to do. He turned back to the dragons, shouting, The heartfire isn't just power, it's a link. If I can amplify it through your wings, through your energy, we can push them back. Serenia's silver eyes widened. You would channel the flame through us? Ethan nodded. Together, we can turn this mountain into a beacon, and if we're lucky, a weapon. Scarthun roared. That is madness.
The fire will burn you alive.
Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, he said. But I'll burn bright enough to make it count. Valrix bowed his head low. Then we fly as one, he said. The dragons gathered around the heartfire, forming a circle, their scales shimmered like liquid stars, their breath filling the air with heat and smoke. Ethan stood at the center, his hands pressed against the ancient crystal, feeling its pulse sync with his own. The runes carved into the floor began to glow, spreading outward like rivers of molten light. The mountain trembled, its walls humming with power that had slept for eons. Then the first Krell salvo struck. Explosions rippled across the valley, throwing up waves of dust and fire. Dozens of black ships descended, firing beams of crimson energy into the mountain. The dragons roared in unison, unleashing torrents of flame that tore the air apart. Ethan shouted over the chaos, Now! Focus the energy through the heartfire. The mountain answered. Columns of light burst from its peak. Shooting into the stormy sky, the dragons rose, wings beating in rhythm with the heartfire's pulse. Each one caught the energy, channeling it through their scales, their roars becoming the sound of thunder itself. Ethan felt the power surge through him. Searing his nerves, pain flooded his body. But he didn't stop. He screamed, not in fear, but in defiance. As the light flowed from his hands into the dragons, the world turned gold. The dragons became comets, streaks of fire weaving between the Krell ships. Every beat of their wings sent waves of light rippling outward, tearing the invaders apart. Explosions painted the sky one after another, until the darkness above burned like dawn. But the energy was too strong. Ethan's body trembled violently, the light bursting from his eyes, his veins. He felt the heartfire's voice again, calm, endless. To give life, one must give flame. He whispered, Do it, and released everything. A pillar of golden fire erupted from the mountain. Piercing the sky and splitting the clouds, the shockwave tore across the land, shattering Krell ships like glass even from orbit. The explosion looked like a new sun being born. The Krell fleet was consumed, their engines melting in waves of pure light. The storm cleared, leaving only silence and a glowing sky that shimmered with the color of hope. When it was over, the mountain stood silent again. Smoke rose in slow curls from its peaks. The dragons landed one by one, their scales dim, their wings trembling from exhaustion. At the center of the crater, where the control pillar had once stood, lay Ethan. His body was still, the faint glow fading from his skin. Velrix approached slowly, lowering his massive head beside him. "Human," he whispered, voice heavy with grief. "You gave us back the stars." The silver dragon Serenia touched her snout to Ethan's chest and gasped softly. "He lives," she said, barely. Velrix's eyes widened. "The Heartfire does not let its keeper fall so easily," he said. They carried him to the inner sanctum, where golden light still shimmered softly. As they placed him upon the ancient stone, the Heartfire pulsed again, slower this time. As though breathing with him, Velrix bowed his head. "Rest, human," he murmured. "Your flame burns brighter than any star." Outside, the sky had changed color. The darkness was gone, replaced by a strange, eternal dawn that spread far beyond the horizon, and in the ashes of the Krell fleet, new stars began to appear, tiny sparks, each one born from the explosion of the Heartfire's light. The unthinkable had happened. A single human had turned a dying flame into a new beginning. But his story was not over yet, for even as he slept, deep within the mountain's light, the Heartfire whispered to him still, "The final bond remains, and somewhere beyond the stars." The surviving Krell screamed into the void, realizing too late that they had awakened something far greater than they could ever control. The air over Vareth 9 shimmered like liquid gold. Dawn came slowly, spilling light across the wounded mountains, bathing the world in the gentle afterglow of a battle that had almost torn it apart. For the first time in thousands of years, the sky was clear, no Krell ships, no black storms, only silence, and the strange warmth of peace inside the mountain, where the Heartfire still pulsed. The dragons stood in a wide circle around the small stone platform. There, motionless but breathing, lay Ethan Cole. His skin no longer burned with golden light, but faint threads of it still moved beneath his veins. Like the last embers of a fading star, Velrix lowered his massive head beside him. The old dragon's eyes flickered with something Ethan had never seen before. Hope and fear mixed together. "He gave everything," Velrix said softly, his deep voice trembling through the chamber. Scarthun, the crimson-scaled war dragon, bowed his head, the gesture rare and heavy. "The human flame burned strong," he murmured, "strong enough to wake the stars." For days they waited. The dragons guarded the chamber in silence, watching the rise and fall of the human's chest, the slow beat of light under his skin. Outside, the planet began to heal. The Heartfire's energy seeped into the land, turning barren stone into glowing fields of crystal grass. Rivers once poisoned by Krell fire now flowed clear again, reflecting the gold sky above. Even the wind had changed, it carried warmth instead of ash, but peace came at a cost. Of the 6 dragons who had fought the battle, 2 had fallen, their bodies resting near the mountain's edge where the light would always touch them. Their sacrifice kept the Heartfire from dying out when Ethan released it. Every surviving dragon bore the marks of that war, burned wings, broken scales, and eyes that had seen the edge of death. One night, as the Heartfire dimmed to its quiet rhythm, Ethan stirred, his fingers twitched, then opened. Light spilled from his palm, soft, pure, not painful anymore. Velrix's head snapped toward him. "Ethan," he said, voice breaking the silence. "You return." Ethan's eyes opened slowly, golden at the edges, his pupils glowing faintly. For a moment he just breathed. The world around him felt different. Every sound was clearer, every heartbeat stronger. Even the air hummed with energy. He sat up with effort, looking around the glowing chamber. "Did we win?" he asked weakly. "Serenia?" The silver dragon leaned closer, her voice soft as rain. "The Krell fleet is gone," she said. "Destroyed by your fire." Ethan blinked, trying to process her words. He looked down at his hand, still glowing faintly. "I thought I was dead," he whispered. Velrix's golden eyes softened. "You were," he said, "but the Heartfire does not forget those who burn for others." Ethan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Valrix looked toward the crystal heart of the mountain. When you released its power, the heart fire took a piece of you, he said, and gave a piece of itself in return. Ethan stared down at his glowing hands. So, I'm part of it now? Scarthan rumbled. You are more than part. Human. You are its keeper now. The words sank into him like heavy rain. He looked up, meeting the eyes of every dragon in the chamber. They all bowed their heads, 6 titans of flame and storm bowing to a man who once only fixed broken machines. He felt small, humbled, but also alive in a way he'd never known. The heart fire pulsed behind him, brighter now, responding to his presence. When he reached out his hand, sparks of light followed his fingers, floating like fireflies. He could feel the world beyond the stone walls, the wind on the cliffs, the pulse of rivers, even the faint whispers of creatures awakening in the valleys below. It wasn't just power, it was connection. He was part of something vast and endless. Serenia spoke softly. The Heartfire has chosen many guardians through ages, but none beyond our kind, she said. It seems even creation itself bows to change. Ethan smiled faintly. Guess humanity finally did something right, he said. The dragons laughed, a deep, echoing sound that shook dust from the ceiling. It wasn't mockery, it was joy, the kind they hadn't felt in ages. Valrix's tail flicked gently. You showed us what we had forgotten, he said. That even a fragile flame can warm the universe. Ethan stood slowly, his strength returning with every breath. He walked toward the Heartfire, its light wrapping around him like sunlight. A vision flashed before his eyes, not of war, but of life. He saw dragons flying once again, not as fugitives but as guardians. He saw worlds rebuilt, and humans walking beside creatures once thought to be myth. The future shimmered before him like a promise. Then he felt it, the Heartfire calling to him. Its voice was inside his mind now, calm and kind. Balance restored, but not yet complete. He looked up at the dragons. There's more to do, he said. Valrix nodded slowly. There always is. Ethan turned to the great creatures, his voice firm. The Heartfire doesn't belong to one race, or one world, he said. It's life itself, and it's meant to be shared. Scarthan frowned. You would give its light away? After all we lost to protect it? Ethan met his gaze, his golden eyes steady. Not give it away, he said. Spread it. Help others remember what creation feels like. Not destruction. Serenia's silver wings shimmered faintly. He speaks truth, she whispered. The flame grows when shared. Valrix looked at him for a long moment, then bowed his massive head. Then it shall be so, he said. From this day, the dragons will no longer hide. We will fly again across the stars. Ethan smiled. And I'll make sure no one forgets why you came back. Outside, the sky began to shift. Auroras of gold and crimson spread across the horizon. The dragons stepped out of the mountain one by one. Wings stretching wide, their roars filled the air, shaking the heavens, not in fury but in triumph. And in their center, Ethan stood, the golden glow of the Heartfire flowing through him. As Valrix lowered his wing, Ethan climbed onto his back, the warmth beneath him pulsing like a heartbeat. Where to, human flame? The dragon asked. Ethan grinned, his eyes reflecting the sunrise. Wherever the dark still lingers, he said. The dragons took flight, soaring into the endless light of the new dawn from the ground. Their silhouettes looked like streaks of living fire. The last human of Vareth 9 flew among them, not as an outsider, but as one of their own. The pack of legends reborn, bound by flame and fate. And as they vanished into the golden sky, the mountain whispered softly behind them. The keeper walks with the dragons, and the stars will never know darkness again. That day, across distant worlds when the first golden auroras appeared in the night, people looked up and whispered the same words. The human flame still burns,